Food and wine. When they come together in just the right way, it's not just dinner, it's a whole experience. Today, we're going to dive into how to create that little bit of magic. And let's just get this out of the way right now. This is not about memorizing a bunch of stuffy rules. This is about learning an art, a way to make a great meal absolutely unforgettable.
Come on, we've all been there, right? You're out for a nice dinner, they hand you the wine list, and it's basically a book, and you just feel this pressure, like you have to pick the one perfect wine. It can be super overwhelming.
So let's just change our goal entirely. Instead of stressing about finding the right bottle, what if we thought about creating something beautiful? Think of it like you're a conductor. The food has its own unique notes, the wine has its instruments, and when you bring them together, you get this incredible symphony right there on your palate.
Okay, so before we jump into specific pairings, this wine with that dish, it's so important to understand the why behind it all. What are we actually trying to do here? What does a successful pairing even taste like?
The whole game is about one word: synergy. A great pairing isn't just about two things that taste okay together. No, it's about a combination where 1 + 1 somehow equals 3. The wine might bring out a little spice in a dish you never even noticed, or the food could soften the wine and suddenly reveal all this amazing fruit. The point is, both are better together than they could ever be on their own.
So how do we actually create that synergy? Well, it all comes down to a few basic principles. I like to think of this as your personal pairing toolkit. Once you get how these tools work, you'll be able to build amazing pairings with confidence, no matter what's on the menu. All right, the first and probably most important tool is just balance. You never want the food to steamroll the wine or the wine to totally overpower the food. It's pretty simple, really. Delicate, lighter dishes need delicate, light-bodied wines. Think about a crisp, clean Pinot Grigio with a simple piece of grilled fish. Perfect. And for those big, bold, flavor-packed meals like a rich short rib, well, you need a wine that can stand up to it, something full-bodied and powerful.
Now, within that idea of balance, you've got two main strategies. First, you can pair by similarity. This is the like with like approach. So maybe you have an earthy mushroom risotto. Pair it with an earthy Pinot Noir, and you just amplify all those wonderful flavors. Or you can go the other way and pair by contrast. Opposites attract. This can be so much fun. Think about that amazing pull between salty and sweet, like a funky blue cheese with a luscious dessert wine. They make each other pop.
Now, to really make those strategies work, we've got to understand the 3 secret weapons inside the wine itself. These are the elements that act like bridges to the food and do all the heavy lifting: acidity, tannins, and sweetness.
So here's how they work. Acidity in wine is what makes your mouth water. It's a natural palate cleanser. That's why a zingy Sauvignon Blanc is so perfect with something rich or briny, like oysters. It just cuts right through and resets your taste buds. Then you have tannins. These are mostly in red wines, and they cause that drying, grippy feeling in your mouth. But here's the cool part. Tannins love protein. They literally bind with the fat and protein from a juicy steak, which makes the steak feel more tender and the wine feel way smoother. It's a real chemical romance. And finally, sweetness in wine is like the ultimate diplomat. It's incredible at balancing out the heat from spicy food or taming really salty dishes.
Okay, theory's over. Let's see this toolkit in action. We're going to look at how these principles play out with some real-world examples, some classic combos you definitely know, and maybe a few that will surprise you. Let's start with maybe the greatest pairing of all time: cheese. If you've got a soft, creamy cheese like a brie, that rich texture is just begging for a wine with good acidity to cut through it, like a nice Chardonnay or Pinot Noir. For those hard, salty cheeses, like a real Parmigiano, that saltiness actually smooths out the tannins in a big red wine, making it an amazing partner for a Cabernet. And then, for the big, pungent blue cheeses, this is where contrast is everything. A sweet wine, like a port, creates this salty-sweet combination that is just, wow, it's out of this world.
And speaking of Cabernet, here's that tannin and protein magic we were just talking about. Just picture it. You take a bite of a perfectly cooked, fatty steak, and then you take a sip of a big, structured cab. Instantly, those tannins latch onto the fat, cleansing your palate and getting you ready for that next perfect bite. It's a classic for a reason. The science just works.
Okay, so the classics are great. We get it. But do these rules hold up when we step outside of traditional European food? What do you do with something as incredibly rich, complex, and intense as a Brazilian feijoada? Oh, absolutely. This is a fantastic example of matching intensity. A feijoada is a total powerhouse of a dish. A light little wine would just get completely lost.
It needs a wine with just as much muscle, and that's where something like a Tannat comes in. A bold, structured red with tons of dark fruit and big tannins that can go toe-to-toe with the richness of that stew. It just goes to show you, these principles work everywhere.
So, now you have the toolkit and you've seen how it works. This is where the real fun starts. The next step is all yours, to take these ideas and just start playing, tasting, and figuring out what you love.
And to help you on your journey, here are just a few common mistakes that are super easy to avoid. First, be careful pairing a really sweet wine with a savory main dish. It can get a little weird. Second, that old rule about avoiding big red wines with delicate fish? It's kind of true. The tannins can sometimes create this weird metallic taste. And finally, don't forget about temperature. A wine that's too warm or way too cold is just not going to show you its true personality.
You know, after all the science and all the guidelines, this is really the most important thing to remember. The perfect pairing is totally subjective. It's about what tastes good to you. These principles are here to guide you, not to be your boss. At the end of the day, the best combination is always, always the one that makes you happy. So trust your own palate.
So, with this toolkit in your back pocket, I'm going to leave you with a little challenge. Next time, don't just eat and drink. Get curious. Experiment a little. What amazing new combination are you going to discover? The possibilities are pretty much endless. Cheers to that.